And we're back. For you, it's been an indeterminate amount of time, but for me, it's only been a day. So I have not uploaded part one of this honest look reaction video series. Uh, I did all the background and prelude in the prior video, so watch that video if you want any kind of background. We're gonna just jump right into it because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos I want to get through today. But a little bit of background on, as we get started. So, I really liked the reaction I got for an honest look at Team Coffee. It was highly negative, but it was exactly what I was going for. I was really looking to step on people's toes because I was kind of being an asshole about it. No, not really the kind of content I would make today. But once I decided on the title, An Honest Look, I was like, okay, I gotta do everyone else, right? I have to be honest, which means that if I like a character, the video is going to be a lot more positive, and if I don't like a character, it's going to be a lot more negative. So, first up, I was going to do like RWBY, Weiss, Blake, then Yang. And what happened was, after I did the RWBY video, there's this whole discussion about whether or not she's a Mary Sue, which is why I have the Is RWBY a Mary Sue video here as well. And then I was originally going to do Weiss, then Blake, but I felt a lot more passionate about Blake. Negatively passionate, but passionate nonetheless. And so I did Blake first and then Weiss. And then I wanted to wait until the Yang character short. This was leading into Volume 5. I wanted to wait until the Yang character short came out. And the Yang character short ended up being delayed. Which is why I did an honest look at RWBY's fight scenes before I did an honest look at Yang. And as I said at the end of the last video, an honest look at Yang was kind of a turning point in my channel because that was the first video I did using Adobe Premiere, which I would continue to use for the next 2 to 3 years after that. So without further ado, I have not watched these videos in years, so it's going to be a little rough. An honest look at Ruby Rose.
Hello and welcome to An Honest Look in RWBY, where
I like that logo. I don't know what font I found. It was some font in Movie Maker because I was still using Movie Maker at this time. Like I said last time, I was doing everything the worst way you could do it in 2016. Yeah. But I do like the way that turned out. I don't have that image anymore, and if I did, I would try to remake it in a higher definition because that is some low res stuff right there.
Summarize something in RWBY and give my overly opinionated thoughts. Today I'm talking about...
Am I overly opinionated? Because I don't think I am, honestly. I really don't think all my opinions are all that drastic or extreme.
Ruby Rose, the not quite titular character of the show. She was the first character we ever saw debuting in the Red trailer, which was more of a proof of concept for how the show would look so that Monty could convince his bosses it was a good idea to support it.
Bernie and Matt. They are no longer around at Rooster Teeth. Bernie's still obviously an actor and he still does his own thing. But I don't think Matt's connected to the company at all anymore.
Even so, we get a lot of good character shots. We see her standing at her mother's grave looking solemn. This dazed look continues until she gets up close and personal with the Grimm. From there, without a single line of Monty or Miles' ham-fisted dialogue, we get...
that freeze frame. That freeze frame I did just to draw that shot out.
Everything we need to know about RWBY. She loves fighting monsters. She livens up as she eviscerates them. She is living her dream.
I got a lot better at the presentation because I like that line, but I would absolutely not record it the way I did here. And part of it's the mic quality. I was scared to pop in the mic or whatever because I was using a gaming headset. But it says she is living her dream. I'll go she is living her dream. Like, that's how that line should be presented. But as far as this analysis of RWBY, this is absolutely how I saw RWBY. Obviously things happen. This was pre-Volume 5, guys. This was pre-Volume 5. I didn't know how bad the show could get. And I do think this is kind of how RWBY is at her heart. And I said this in my Volume 9 video that, like, all of her options of reincarnation, all the things she could possibly become, all involve having a weapon. Because that's who she is at her core. She is a warrior. I don't think using the red trailer as a basis for RWBY's characterization is a good idea. And I did kind of touch on that already in this video, but it was a proof of concept. Like, it's of dubious canonicity. Obviously, like, I'm gonna try to find a good shot of her. This is later
affirmed in the series pilot episode.
Where's the shot of her? A little bit before that.
Without a single line of Monty or Miles' ham-fisted dialogue, we get everything.
You can't really tell when it's in motion, but, like, her belt's a little different. Her overall design got, like, very minutely tweaked in between the red trailer and the yellow trailer. And what didn't get just tweaked and got absolutely overhauled is the design of the Grimm. Here they are just reskinned werewolves from Skyrim, I believe. They came with, like, the poser package or whatever. Like, they ended up getting their hands on those models. Mostly through, like, modding. You can get them and put them into any game now. And of course, the moon. The moon is not shattered in the red trailer. It is full. They hadn't come up with the idea of having it be shattered yet. So because of a lot of this dubious canonicity, they very clearly did not know exactly what kind of person RWBY was going to be. And because they didn't really have that grasp of her, I don't think the red trailer is good to go off of. Although a lot of my analysis based on the red trailer does actually hold up, I think.
Need to know about RWBY. She loves fighting monsters. She livens up as she eviscerates them. She is living her dream.
And we didn't get another bit of RWBY like that until Volume 9, actually. Like, her fight with the Curious Cat is pretty dope.
This is later affirmed in the series pilot episode. She wants to fight monsters because it's fun. She wants to help.
Nope. No, she never says because it's fun. I think I was actually referencing George Carlin there. He's like, he had this bit about, like, capital punishment or like how, like, why we kill things, like, we hunt, tigers and elephants because it's fun. And we kill people. We kill people too because they're pests. And it's fun. So yeah, that was actually me trying to reference George Carlin. And I don't think it really fits with RWBY. Like, RWBY is more about protecting life, which does have the side effect of making her way more comfortable with fighting monsters. And I kind of worked this into RWBY on too, even though the show has never addressed this. The giant combat scythe is a very impractical weapon. It is a weapon that would only be good for two things. Sweeping up monsters and cutting grass. It would not be good in a one-on-one fight with a person. And I think RWBY actually designed that weapon with that shortcoming in mind. Like, she didn't design Crescent Rose to fight people. She doesn't want to fight people. She wants to protect people from the monsters who don't have souls. Like, and having soul is really important to RWBY. That's why she saw Penny as a person when no one else did. Because Penny has a soul. I would absolutely touch on all of that when I redo this video. I don't plan on redoing any honest looks until after RWBY is over. That way I can have the overarching everything to kind of pull from. But yes, RWBY is way more comfortable fighting Grimm than she is fighting people, and always has been. And it's reflected in her weapon as well.
Help people because it's the right thing to do, and in her own words, might as well make a career out of it. She doesn't want to be coddled, but she's not interested in glory. She wants to be a normal girl with normal needs.
I think that's very
Things
important.
Like wealth, fame, and power don't mean anything to her.
Unlimited power!
She idolizes the idea of being a hero, much like Deku from My Hero Academia.
Yes, very similar character.
Punch Man.
Very similar characters. Not so much like Saitama, but definitely like Deku.
Power, nor is she blessed with incredible talent. Even her seemingly OP power is only OP to the same monsters that Coco was able to slaughter with a wave of her gun.
Yes, and the Silver Eyes have kind of not been super effective in a lot of situations.
Getting back on track, RWBY's appearance in the yellow trailer only establishes that these two are sisters and their names are RWBY and Yang. In the pilot episode, we see her enjoying fighting the bad guys once again, only to be
like her little rose pendant she has on her belt. I don't think that was there in the red trailer.
In these first few episodes, we get a fully realized character. For the next 4 volumes, everyone else is just playing catch-up for how fleshed out RWBY gets in these first few episodes.
I stand by that. I'm a very, adamant, RWBY defender. I still get frustrated when people, try to trash talk her development or whatever. She had a lot of development in the first few episodes of the show, and the next, 3 to 4 volumes is just everyone playing catch-up to the development that she had. And to a lesser extent, Weiss. And to an even lesser extent, Jean. They were kind of, the focal point of the first volume. Yang barely has any lines that are worth remembering in the first volume. We knew basically nothing about her.
Gets to Beacon, she tries validating her position to mixed results. Her first obstacle is Weiss, a snobby elitist who didn't exactly have good role models growing up. Through the first half of Volume 1, they have to learn to cooperate. This tension gets resolved in the episode Badge and the Burden, when RWBY realizes what it means to be a leader.
And
Weiss learns
Great episode by RWBY standards.
Learning to be a good person takes a little longer. RWBY and the rest of her team kind of disappear for a while after that. Though RWBY is the one to give Jean the pep talk where she restates the lessons she learned
Forever
in the
Fall. We talked about this
and in the Volume 1
last
finale,
video.
she simply plays nice for everyone. She befriends Penny, she tries...
This actually, lends credence to my opinion about, RWBY being more comfortable with Grimm problems than with people problems, and a large part of her development over the last 3 volumes, Volume 7, 8, and 9, has been dealing with people problems, because the people problems are what cause the Grimm problems.
Tries to be the mediator between Weiss and Blake, and true to form is the one that tries jumping in during the finale.
God, the 2 things I keep noticing in these older videos of mine. One is the out-of-place frames, which is just me not being a good frame-by-frame editor. And the other one, I must have pulled these clips from various sources because the resolution is all over the place. This looks like it's in 480,
and
then that looks like it's in 720. That's actually kind of HD there.
That tries jumping in during the finale, only to take a blast to the chest. In Volume 2, she's a little more comfortable.
Was that supposed to be a joke?
A
blast to the chest?
The best day ever. She leads the charge in a food fight. It's her idea to take the fight to Torchwick. All Blake did was whine and mope. Sadly, RWBY gets distracted by Penny and doesn't contribute much to the hunt itself.
Yeah.
She does, however, call the shots when the fight ensues, as she should.
True.
There's a running theme that, even though RWBY is a leader, she's a terrible one. She routinely abandons her team to fight things herself.
I wish the show would have addressed this more, because I really feel like they were doing this on purpose.
This in the character short, and
the really awkward transition to my first ever review. I think another moment like this comes up in the Blake video too.
The Deathstalker, her leaving the dance, her going to fight Rowan, and her going up Beacon Tower. RWBY really has a problem with leaving her team, doesn't she?
Oh, so awkward. I'm cringing at myself. 6 years ago. It was 6 years ago, Evan. It was 6 years ago. A lot has changed. You went through several years of school. You got a job. You became a published author. Which, I didn't actually mention that in the last video. I'll probably put like a little stinger at the front, but like, yeah, I am a published author now. Right underneath the Breath of the Wild poster is actually a poster for my first book, The Hellfire Brats, and I don't have a copy of it in reach, but Nephilim Strain is coming out July 10th. Pre-order it now in the description.
I like that it's consistent and feeds into my martyr complex theory, but she's not a good leader. Nowhere is this more apparent.
Oh, the audio, like... It's really hard to balance out music in Movie Maker. So every time I would, like, transition into a different clip or a different song, you'd have that little bump.
Than in the dance scenes. I've argued that Burning the Candle is among the best episodes in the series.
And it still is. It still is.
From a casual viewer to an actual fan of the show. At least half of that is with the RWBY scene in that episode.
Yes, very underrated scene.
The first has a theme of enjoying things while you can. Don't give up, just slow down. You can't spend your whole life on the battlefield. RWBY is given an opportunity to change in the scene, but doesn't. She actually seems displeased by this theme. She does want to spend her whole life on the battlefield, because as I've said, she finds killing monsters fun. And in the very next episode, she displays this when she, alone, confronts Cinder in the CCT. She dances around the truth to further her own goals.
Good writing, not a great scene. That's the, like, very meme-heavy scene about, like, how awful the animation got. It's probably the worst animated scene in the entire, like, Monty era of RWBY was Volume 2, Episode 7.
Of becoming the hero. She draws a connection between the CCT infiltrator and Torchwick, and uses that
bit
as
of a stretch, but you know, had to move the plot forward, so I'm okay with it.
She puts her team in a very dangerous position that isn't dangerous at all, because this is Volume 2, and Volume 2 treats dramatic tension the way Hillary Clinton treats her emails.
Political jokes. I still do them, but just not in honest look videos anymore.
Falls into a hole and gets captured. This brings me to another complaint I have for Volume 2. RWBY's punch being weak makes no sense.
It really doesn't.
Guy through a window in the very first episode.
Yes,
she
that happened.
Swings her scythe around with one hand.
Yes.
When she punches this guy, it should be like when Vegeta punched Semi-Perfect Cell. RWBY doesn't do much for the rest of the...
That episode of Dragon Ball Z Abridged must have just come out. Because I would not have made that comparison otherwise. But, yeah, like... Now, there's a lot of mechanics when it comes to throwing a punch and throwing a punch effectively, but when you're really strong, you don't really need the mechanics to hurt someone. In fact, the mechanics of throwing a punch actually minimizes at least the damage to yourself. That's why you have to have like your kind of that rotation helps minimize the impact. I haven't been in many fights, but I've been in a few in my life. I'm not very good at it, though.
Volume. She somehow dodges bullets when she couldn't dodge a grapnel cane just a few minutes earlier.
Yeah,
she splits the team up for no reason. She doesn't even get
I did correct myself in that one.
End. Have I mentioned how much I hate the Volume 2 finale? The first half of Volume 3 doesn't do much better. They double down on her enthusiasm, but there's only so much you can double down on before you have to either do something about it or implode.
Yeah, I feel like that's the whole last 3 volumes in a nutshell. Like they finally did something about it by having it implode.
And I'll describe why the Vital Festival was a bit of a flop in the different honest look. I do like...
Hey, I promised a video and actually delivered on that one. About a year later.
That it's RWBY that puts the pieces together, even if the actual storytelling mechanics were in absolute need of some oil. And again, she wanders off on her own, which puts her face to face with Mercury. And here they finally do something with this character beyond doubling down on her personality. She is...
Can I posit the theory that that RWBY actually had a lot more development in Volume 4 than what she often gets credit for? Because I really feel like all this stuff that I'm kind of criticizing her leadership role for completely stopped in at the end of Volume 4. like with the new Clavi fight, and then from there on, she was a team player through and through. I don't think she's gone off on her own since then, with the obvious exception of her mental breakdown in Volume 9.
She is devastated when Penny gets broken, but she fights through the tears and leads the charge into the arena, wielding nothing but Penny's discarded
Love that moment! Ugh!
Takes her scythe back because
Leave her alone!
She could call her locker from Sun Scroll.
Weird moment, but
when she
yeah,
sees
weird
Ironwood's
moment in
ship
Volume
go
3.
down, she does the single dumbest, most impulsive, most awesome thing in the entire show.
Yeah.
She goes alone to the flagship. There she comes face to face with Torchwick. Now, there's this running arc that RWBY feels bad that she hasn't actually caught bad guys. Cinder escaped back into CCT, RWBY wasn't able to do anything about Mercury or Emerald, she wasn't able to save Penny. Torchwick escaped.
She feels inadequate.
Getting caught,
like,
now he's loose
like
again.
I don't work on RWBY. And I don't know the people who do personally. So I don't know how much they had planned. But when I revisited a lot of RWBY clips while I was making my Volume 9 video, there is actually a lot of RWBY, like, having, not anxiety or depression, but really kind of being bummed out when she fails to catch the bad guy. And all that really came to a boil in Volume 8, which was her biggest failure. And then in Volume 9, where she had to deal with that failure and try to come out the other side in one piece.
This scene with Neo and Torchwick is the best scene in the whole series. It's so
I don't know if I
good.
stand,
Fat
but I
Man
don't
Paul,
know.
a guy who has made it his life goal.
Hey, Fat Man.
This out of RWBY dedicated an entire video.
He did do that.
How awesome this scene is.
He did actually do too.
She never had been challenged before.
I think the reason why I had that and is because I think his second video about this whole deal came out while I was in the middle of editing this. But he had released the first one by the time I was recording. I don't know if this is still my favorite scene in the entire series, but it is up there.
It takes all her idealistic talk and provides the counter-argument. Every
Yes.
line from Torchwick is gold. RWBY has shown to be a
Like waiting until this moment to explain Yang's power. So, I don't think I knew this at the time, but that's a weird moment in Volume 2. In the commentary track, they did explain that Sun and Neptune were originally supposed to be there, but then they got cut from the episode, but they left the line in because they wanted to explain to the audience what Yang's power was, and that's why they had Sun and Neptune in the fight in the first place, but then it didn't make any sense, and then it still doesn't make any sense. Should have been rewritten.
terrible leader and is bad at working with others, and that becomes more apparent when Neo and Torchwick display a level of teamwork the show hadn't ever seen. This scene is the
I
most
still think it's
important
some of the
scene
best
for RWBY,
teamwork in the entire
whether she
series.
chooses to learn anything from this or not. Miles and Carrie wrote
Yes.
themselves into the exact opposite of a corner. Even after
That was
stopping
Fat
Torchwick,
Man's
Mary
point.
Poppins, Neo, and
That was almost
saving
word for word
countless
what Fat
lives
Man
by
was
bringing
saying.
down the gunship, she still isn't satisfied and runs off to save Jean and Pyrrha. And she fails, but unlocks Glowy Eyes Ex Machina, nukes the dragon, and sends Cinder packing. Waking
Yeah,
up sometimes
it
later,
is
and
kind of
she
an Ex
leaves
Machina.
again to save the world. But this time she's got Team Ranger. But that doesn't stop her from going off on her own against the Barangel and the guy.
How come everyone skips the RWBY character short from Volume 4? Like, I've kind of perused a couple reaction channels over the past few weeks while I was working on the Volume 9 video, and none of them seem to like react to the RWBY trailer. Like, the only ones who do are ones who were reacting to RWBY as that stuff was coming out.
This series isn't going to be talking much about Volume 4 since we don't know where it's leading, and I already have my reviews. The villains are after her.
Although I don't have reviews anymore!
When she talks to Jean or cuts Tyrion's tail
That
off.
stopped after Volume 8.
A lot of people have a problem with RWBY. I don't see it overall, but she was
out of place
sidelined a bit in
frames.
Volume 4. RWBY
I
didn't
can't
grow much in
unsee them
Volume
now.
4. But she didn't have to. She was already the most fleshed out and well-rounded character in the show. She had some of the best
Arguably,
designs,
yes.
the most interesting
Yes.
yet impractical weapon. A
Yes.
semblance that actually reflects her impulsive martyr complex, the most star-making
Yeah,
vocal
I
performance
guess.
in the show.
I stand by that, especially after Volume 9. I do think Lindsay was starting to lose her touch in about Volume 6 and 7, and then a little bit in Volume 8 as well. She started becoming more of a caricature of herself, but in Volume 9, she got back to, like, really hitting those emotional beats.
I mean, the police are alright, but Huntsman and Huntresses are just so much more romantic and exciting and cool. Just, you know? It's so good to see you. Did you miss me? Did you miss me? Ruby?
Yep.
Leave her alone!
Seriously, the fact that Lindsay Jones can keep up and give both Vic Mignogna and Shannon McCormick a run for their money may very well be the most impressive thing Rooster Teeth has ever done.
That's hype. That was just straight up hyperbole.
And for now, that's enough for me. I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go from here.
Though to be honest, obviously I'm going to be honest throughout this whole thing. Both past me and present me are going to be honest. I was never that impressed with Vic Mignogna's performance as Crow until Volume 6. And so it's a shame that as soon as I started liking his performance, I just feel like it. I just feel like just about anybody could do the gravelly older man voice.
Looking forward to her fated confrontation with Cinder. I'm looking forward to when she actually has to kill someone and live with it. I'm also looking forward to seeing her relationships getting deeper. Fingers crossed for Lancaster. So until next time.
Fingers crossed for Lancaster, baby. Although I would now try to like the further RWBY has gotten, I'm still holding a torch for Lancaster, but I've been leaning more towards the end of RWBY being ace and not ending up with anybody. And I think that having platonic relationships is just as important as romantic ones. So we're gonna jump right into the next video. Is RWBY and Mary Sue? So I'm making this video as a sort of an add-on. I'm using a different mic on this one. I think this might be the iPhone mic. But there's RWBY again. RWBY Slaps, character from RWBY Beyond, that Kitty Kirishima drew fan art of, and that was like my profile pic until I got the current chibi version of me. For my previous video, I want to address a question that's been circulating around the fandom really since Volume 3 ended, but because of the nature. I'm also using different recording software. Different recording. Was this the first video I recorded using Audacity? Or, no, I think I was using OBS. That would explain the less fuzziness, more inexplicable echo. So this was the first one where I was using OBS to record audio as well. For this video and all the other projects that I have in the pipeline, I'm going to keep this brief, which is why there won't be a lot of... You can hear me tapping on my desk. Edits. Thanks for the warning, past Mary Sue. Mary Sue is a term that gets thrown around a lot within the fandom collective. The term has gotten diluted, but instead of losing meaning, these are all gained contradictory meanings. At its core, a Mary Sue is a bland character. More specifically, one whose blandness stems from a lack of personality. See, this is why you write and record with the editing in mind, because I describe what a Mary Sue is and show the definition of a Mary Sue, and these are not the same. Of personality. A rule of thumb that is used to measure a personality is comparing their personality traits with their physical skills. What was that? With their physical what was that? Is comparing their personality traits to measure a personality. And since all the writers voice other characters and have written RWBY pretty consistently, we can rule out the self-insert argument. Oh yeah, we could definitely write that out. That's the obvious thing. Is comparing their personality traits with I don't think RWBY is a Mary Sue. I certainly don't think she's a Mary Sue anymore. Like, I think all the evidence that people posited for her being a Mary Sue is completely outdated. especially with Volume 8 and 9.
Their physical skills. Another measure is whether they deserve to be treated the way they are in the story. A few examples. Kirito from Sword Art Online, who
I don't know if I like that definition.
Is mopey, doesn't do anything to better his situation, pushes people away even though they're all in the same boat, has an inexplicable amount of skill and plot armor, and despite being so brooding and wooden, gets all the girls to fall in love with him, even his cousin. Unless you're into the power fantasy of
SAO
being
is
Kirito,
pretty fucked.
There's no reason to care. Sasuke from Naruto blurs the line a bit. It's generally seen
I don't
as
think he does at all.
when an antagonist is, he's just that cool, guys, I promise. Sasuke stands as the ultimate antithesis of Naruto, so it makes sense for him to be
he is the antithesis of Naruto.
Strives to beat. Rey from Star Wars has gotten a lot of flack for being Mary Sue-ish.
This was pre-Last Jedi, guys. This was pre-Last Jedi.
But considering we have no idea where they're going with her, it's better to withhold judgment.
We do know where they were going with it now, which is they didn't fucking know. Because somehow Palpatine is alive, and they fly now. And she is all of the Jedi. Rey absolutely. I don't think she was not so much a Mary Sue in Force Awakens. I don't even think she was that much of a Mary Sue in Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker absolutely destroyed any potential the sequel trilogy had, and I kind of love it.
Now let's
it's
apply
just
some
so
of these
bad.
things to RWBY. Does her power make sense? Well, she trained for an unspecified amount of time from the premier scythe
the bad audio.
Follows a chosen one trope with the
bad
added
audio
self-awareness
chopping.
that she was literally chosen by Ozpin to come to a school and lead. Is she treated in a way that she deserves? Again, yes, she's nice, but she's not nice all the time. She shows a full range of emotions throughout the show and is treated in kind.
I could see people disagreeing with that with Volume 9. With the end, with the whole, no, she's none of those things, and that's why we follow her, quote. But that was just Team RWBY being supportive of their, friend/family member who maybe sort of kind of tried to commit suicide 2 episodes earlier. But, going back to Volume 8, Yang questioned RWBY's leadership and questioned whether she was making the right calls. And she's been challenged by other people, particularly, most recently, Jean, in Volume 9. But they were both in just high distress in that situation. It was just a very nasty situation.
Is her personality just a checklist of events and skills? Absolutely not. She's never shown to be bad at anything, but she's not particularly skilled either, and she doesn't talk about her backstory all that much.
Has she won a one-on-one fight? Has she been in a one-on-one fight? I don't even think she's been in one. I guess the little bit with her and the cat in Volume 9? I'm trying to think, Volume 8 was a lot of monster fights. Volume 7 was also a lot of monster fights. And then the Aesop's fight where she technically lost her one-on-one fight with Harriet. Weiss had to step in. Volume 6, the Leviathan, I guess. Volume 5, Mercury, kinda. That was kind of a whole mess, though. But yeah, I don't even think she's been in a one-on-one fight in the entire show. So it's been either gang fights or group fights or team fights or just swarm, monster swarm fights.
Is her relevance in the story undeserving? She actually deserves more relevance.
Yes.
With all that said,
she should have gotten more screen time throughout the series.
But you know who is? Pure Nikos. Get your hands away from that keyboard and let
I don't
me
agree with that.
She's a prodigy, blessed with great talents. That's all most people talk about with her. Those talents alone gain her more relevance in the plot.
I don't remember where I'm going with this point, but I'm going to predict that, Pyrrha that my point here is that Pyrrha was kind of a deconstruction of what a typical like Mary Sue slash like prodigal warrior type would be. Jean doesn't take her hints despite the obvious. She's nice all the time, or at least most of the time, but I wholeheartedly believe that was intentional. After all, what's the one red flag in discerning a Mary Sue? Being overpowered. And she was... Again, being a Mary Sue does not mean being overpowered. If I believed in, like, actually removing video... Like, I think this is actually one of my worst videos. Just script-wise. On top of, like, having bad editing and bad, like, overall, like, audio quality and stuff, I don't think this video... Like, I would not have even made this video if I were doing it today. Like, I just straight up wouldn't even... Is RWBY Mary Sue? Like, that's not video worthy of me anymore. What were the comments like? Grew with most of the video except the end. RWBY has many things. Pure is actually not a Mary Sue. What did I say to that? Yeah, deconstruction. Yeah. The first to die. Yeah, I'm not liking this video. Really safe. So, I'm fine with it. Anything can work, the creators just have to make it work. And Ruby Rose, she works. She works better than most things in the series. Yeah, that is something that I always stuck with. Little thought experiment.
So, for this entry and
again, completely different audio quality than the last video.
Look in RWBY, I'll be talking about Blake Belladonna. She was at one point the most popular character in the show, and swiftly became one of the most hated. Blake's
most hated by me personally.
Story is extremely problematic and endemic of all the flaws the series has been carrying around from the start. So instead of going through her story as we were shown, I'm going to do my best to create a timeline for her character. Because
not so much a timeline, but certainly a chronology.
I think that is the best way to highlight the fatal flaws in how she was written. Blake was born presumably on Menagerie. Sometime after the Great War, a war between Faunus and humans broke out. It lasted at least 3 years, and in the aftermath the White Fang were founded. We're never given an actual timeline.
I don't even know how much of this stuff you're noticing, but I'm noticing it at least once per minute. A bad audio cut or something.
And the show absolutely suffered.
How far into the semester did Sun show up? I think they said it was at the end of the semester.
For it. She was born in the White Fang, attended every rally, and participated in every boycott. Then, when she was 12, her parents stepped down from the White Fang, and Sienna Khan took over.
That was me just doing math.
Her father became the chieftain of Menagerie, but she remained with the White Fang.
By the way, this was pre-Adam character short, which made a lot of that plot line, like, way more problematic, because Ilya is in those flashbacks, as Gira is still in charge of the White Fang, and she just looks the same as she does in, like, volumes 4 and 5. And it's like, how old is Ilya, and how old was she when she was, like, trying to bang Blake? Y'all thought Adam was bad. Adam is at least very clearly younger in those flashbacks than he is in the series proper.
Fang. Even as they became more violent and Gira started opposing them, Blake fully indoctrinated into the Antifa,
political jokes! I still make them on Twitter. Follow me there if you want more, because I don't really do that on the channel anymore.
White Fang cult called them cowards and ran away from home. It's probably at this time that she met Adam and started training under him, if you know what I mean. Within 5
Great line, awful delivery. And it's probably around that time that she started training under him, if you know what I mean. Actually, I'm not really good at delivering that one, if you know what I mean. Bow chicka bow wow.
5 years, she started having a crisis of consciousness. Adam was killing.
It is my headcanon that they were absolutely banging, by the way. And that it was, like, very, like, fucked up. Like, not hot or sexy or any of that stuff. Like, I'm not being a pervert or fetishizing it or whatever, but, like, that is, like, he gains creepy stalker ex-boyfriend stuff in Volume 5, and Blake's guilt about that would make a lot more sense to me. It doesn't have to. Like, she doesn't have to have slept with him for that to have happened. I've seen it both ways. But it would kind of... I think it would make it a lot more impactful if, say, like, in Volume 10, Blake gets intimate with Yang or is doing something with Sun. If she's doing something with Yang, because that's canon now. And she, like, kind of has a PTSD flashback, like, no, sorry, this is just first time I've been like this since Adam and bad experiences. Like, I think that would make a great moment right now, especially since, like, they're in Vacua, they're getting ready for the final war with Salem. Like, things need to start happening like that. We need to start getting, like, these kind of powerful character moments, because Volume 10 is probably going to be our last opportunity for that before the series ends.
Killing people, it started with accidents, then self-defense, and eventually all-out rage. So she ran. Now for a rant. The bow. It's stupid. In my last video, I talked about reveals. Like,
MIS!
The bow was a decent
Winter Soldier!
Reveal, but the more
Great
you think
video.
about it, the dumber it gets. In the Black trailer, she was with the White Fang. She was with Adam, a fauna supremacist. She has no reason to wear the bow.
Except they wanted to keep that reveal a secret from the audience, which I am actually far more okay with now than I was back then. Very clearly. Like, I'm way more okay with that kind of stuff being done for the audience's benefit than I was back when I was making this video. Now my biggest complaint with the bow is that, it doesn't make any sense. Like, have you thought about the logistics of her bow? Like, does it, like, get tucked into her ears? Does it, like, wrap around her ears? Does it, like, sit on top of her ears? Does it, like, pin her ears down? Like, what is it even being tied to? Is it being tied to, like, the back of her neck? Her, like, it's clearly not being wrapped around her chin. Like, where is it even going?
And by the end of Volume 1, all of her friends and
it's some
all of her
anime
enemies
logic
know
stuff.
that she's a faunus, but she still
Yes.
wears it. And in the Vital Festival,
Yeah.
she gets her name and face plastered onto every...
This, I think, is a legit plot hole in RWBY. Like, I am fine with, like, Ruby and Yang having no idea who Gira Belladonna is. I am okay with 99% of the population not knowing who Gira Belladonna is. I am not okay with Jacques Schnee not knowing who Gira Belladonna is. Or the other, like, leaders. Like, in the show's defense, the scene in, I want to say it's Volume 2, Episode 2, flashes back to the season finale of Volume 1, and has Ozpin talking to Blake about what happened, like, and Ozpin states that, like, why do you wear the bow, Blake? I do feel like Ozpin knows Gira Belladonna to some extent, and so he knows exactly who Blake is and where she comes from. So, like, they were at least, like, setting stuff like that up, or thinking about that stuff a little bit. They just didn't really... I just feel like more people should know the name Belladonna within the world of Remnant.
Every single screen in Remnant, and not a single person recognizes her or her name.
We don't know that. Media, there could have been plenty of people who recognized that name, and they all knew her anyway. Like, the scope of the story means that we don't really need stuff like that. But again, I do think that, like, Jacques... The reason why I'm pointing Jacques out specifically is because he's Weiss's dad. Weiss and Blake had it, you know, out for each other in Volume 1, became friends throughout Volume 2 and stuff. There's drama to be had there. There is drama in Jacques knowing exactly who Blake is and, like, cutting Weiss off because of it. Like, there's a missed opportunity there that we'll never get now.
And in Volume 4, she waits until she's on a boat, heading home, to take off the bow.
Yeah.
She just throws it away.
Yeah, whatever.
Did she think she'd never need it again? If so, why didn't
I don't
she
like
get
her
rid
throwing
of
it away.
earlier? But I digress.
Like, I like
so
it.
Instead of going home
I like
or
her
calling
taking
the
it off. I
police,
like what that
and
symbolizes,
telling
but
Horsemen about what the White
I would've
Guards are doing, she
kept
runs
it
off to
around.
Beacon and tries acting like nothing happened. People still try to claim that she's the proactive one. Also, for someone trying to lay low,
Who is
she sure
claiming that
wastes
Blake is
no
proactive?
time picking a fight with the one person whose family would know the Belladonna name. Seriously, does no one have Google? Is the chieftain of Menagerie not on public record? You would think some SJW Bernie voter would have written a paper about Menagerie and discovered the name of
More
their
political
leader. In
jokes.
fact, screw it. My headcanon is that Jacques did recognize the name, and that's why he was calling Weiss after their match.
Oh, I forgot that I had that
And throughout
headcanon.
Volume 1, Blake acts absurdly out of character. She's acting like...
Because we never find out. We never actually do find out why Jacques was calling Weiss in Volume 3. We never get that, like, confirmation. So, that headcanon is still valid. Which would render my whole criticism moot.
Just another goofy character. So, when the
Yeah,
reveal does happen, it's not actually explaining anything from earlier in the season. It just
Little
explains
detail,
why she
yeah,
was
they
acting
do
that
have
way
her
in that
ears
single
twitch there.
episode. Blake then tells her story to Sun, who she barely even knows, after running away
Yeah.
because deep down inside she is a coward. This brings me
Yes.
to another complaint. When we're first introduced...
I really doubled down on the Blake as a coward angle in RWBY On. And it led to some of my favorite moments in RWBY On, but at the same time, it's like, it wasn't coming from a good place. It wasn't coming from, like, an honest, like, this is how I want the character to be, or this is how I think the character is. It was coming from, like, hey, Blake ran away from all her problems, so let's just have her never grow out of that.
to Blake, she's portrayed as the mysterious one. Well, hate to break it to you, but if you're a writer and you have a mysterious character, you really shouldn't delve into their backstory first. Blake is mysterious, but in the first volume we learn more about her backstory than anyone else in Team RWBY, and it would be different if there was something else there, but there's not. Take away all the pretense and all the emo cliches and all the edginess, and Blake is just a boring character who tries to speak with an air of wisdom
like how she tries to take the moral high ground after hearing Yang's backstory, knowing full well that Callie and Gira were both safe on Menagerie, probably worrying about her. Yeah, that's never addressed either. Yang never meets Gira or Callie, as far as I remember. That has not happened yet. I think it is going to happen in Volume 10. I do think Gira and Callie are going to be in Volume 10. They kind of teased that Gira is at least putting something in motion in Volume 8 when RWBY sent her message out. And in the middle of the message, we see, like, Ilya watching it, and then Gira's calling her, like, you know, rally the troops. At least that's the vibe I got from that. That's my theory. And I'm sticking to it until proven otherwise. But yeah, this is the source of a lot of my animosity towards Blake in like volumes 2 through, or I guess the first 6 volumes of RWBY, really, is that Blake speaks with an air of authority she hasn't earned. She didn't grow up poor. She didn't grow up in a broken household like Yang and RWBY did. She didn't, or to an even greater extent, Weiss. Like, she had a family that loved her. She had 2 parents who loved her and were alive and treated her well and wanted what's best for her, and she thought she was better than that. And she never adequately apologizes for a lot of that stuff. She does apologize a little bit for her attitude in Volume 6. Namely, the whole, like, abandoning Yang because she thinks that Yang is someone who needs to be protected. Sorry, I have it paused on the screen. I've probably watched this scene thousands of times. I just noticed that Blake's weapon is presenting a shadow through Yang's hair when it shouldn't be.
He has not earned. She belittles people, especially Weiss, for not understanding her torment, but she hasn't ever actually suffered.
Yeah.
She wore a bow to escape
She
ridicule.
didn't suffer until...
ran away from
Actually,
her parents
you can
because
make
she's a
the argument
stupid
where
teen
she
who
hasn't
believes
been
her
sent through the
opinion is
ringer
more
yet.
valid than anyone's.
Like, RWBY got sent through the fucking ringer throughout the last 2 volumes. And Yang's whole, like, superpower is being sent through the ringer. I don't think Blake has had that, like, level of conflict yet. And she probably never will now that Adam is dead.
Just because she comes from a marginalized group. Oh my god, she's basically one of these SJW college kids.
Yeah. More political jokes, but that wasn't even a joke. That was just like, that's exactly what she's like. Especially in these volumes. Like, she's like, oh, you'll never understand me. Like, Son's pointing at his hair like, really? I wouldn't understand what it's like being a faunus? The fuck?
Then in Volume 2, they try building this rivalry with her and Torchwick that really isn't earned. I mean,
Yeah,
knows
it
the
isn't
White Fang
earned.
were bad. They were bad enough for her to leave them, so what on Remnant made her think they were better than this? What made
Yeah,
her
that's
think that
true.
taking out Torchwick was going to change that? In Volume 2, she just stays moody, pretty much.
That's another thing that they might have been doing on purpose, but then they never really went all the way with it. Because she really was kind of projecting on Torchwick. And being like, oh no, it must be because they're working with the scumbag human now. Like, they're right. They're still in the right? Which is actually pretty on point with groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter especially, like, I've been vocal about this since 2014, since long before I was doing YouTube. Black Lives Matter. Of course, all lives matter. And it is true that, historically speaking, black people have been marginalized. But the Black Lives Matter movement has been conned and manipulated by primarily white senators and CEOs and politicians and like community leaders, business, media people, news people, into like causing this tension that creates the kind of crises that these people, particularly within the Democrat Party, thrive off of. Because if the Democrat Party... sorry, I'm going to go on a little political tangent here because we are talking about Blake. And this is, I think, really important for me to state and reiterate. If the Democrats wanted to solve racism, they could have. They had the opportunity multiple times to fix a lot of these systems, a lot of these systemic problems in our society. But they never will, because if they do, they'll lose the black vote. It's the same thing with welfare. It's the same thing with all these government programs. They create more problems than they solve, because if they solve the problems that they were created to solve, then you wouldn't need them anymore. Sorry, I had to get on that tangent. I don't even know if I'm going to leave that in, but that is, it's how I view Blake and the White Fang oftentimes, especially with these earlier volumes.
Much everyone else on her team is trying to be proactive, but she still thinks she's the only one who can do this. She says that, then she just continues to mope. One admittedly heart-touching conversation with Yang, and she gets over herself for a little while. Further proving that she had no right
Just
to
2
worry
days later.
when she
I'm pretty sure this is the exact same clip. Like, I didn't even take that from the episode and re-edit it. I'm pretty sure I took that from the Honest Like a Team Coffee.
I guess it's
Yeah, the
not
cat
that
jokes are
much
weird.
different from Volume 1 in that it's very bottom heavy. All of her so-called development is relegated.
Although, to me, a lot of the cat jokes with Blake, I kind of could go both ways with it, because I've seen memes where it's like, no, it's not because she's a cat, it's because she's just fucking weird. Like, there's that fan comic with Yang and Callie. Then there's also the Dave Chappelle bit where, like, I will not do the full story, but, like, Dave Chappelle's in a restaurant, and a guy comes up to him, and it's like, let me guess, the fried chicken is like, how did you know? Like, come on, you know. And it's like Dave Chappelle's whole revelation that black people liking fried chicken is a stereotype. It's like, and here I just thought I liked it because it's good. It's like, hey, I'm a white guy, I like fried chicken too. Like, it's cool, man. Like, what, you think I like fish just because I'm a cat person? What if I like fish because it's delicious? You like fish, don't you? Like, yeah, but I'm not... No, doesn't matter. You like fish, and you're not a cat person. So you don't have to be a cat person to like fish.
To the last 2 episodes of the volume. After Adam cuts off Yang's arm, Blake takes action by running home and hiding instead of trying to do something about it. But
Yeah.
then she gives her position away at the first
Very awkward line delivery here from me.
possible chance, and fuck it. I'm just going to play clips from my previous reviews. Freaking twat. She's moody.
Yeah, here it is, the moment I was talking about earlier. And I hate the way that it cuts the audio there. That I cut the audio there. Because this, I think, was like a defining moment on my channel. Not the honest look at Blake, although that was a defining moment on my channel as well. But the review for Volume 4, Episode 3.
Freaking twat. She's moody, irresponsible, and stupid. I don't know if her character can rebound from this. Oh, Adam knows where her family is, so she left her team to make sure Adam doesn't hurt them. Which is still irresponsible. Why in all that is holy would she not tell them? She gets mad at Sun for assuming she's taken the fight to the White Fang. Why wouldn't he think that? That has been her one contribution to the plot so far. That is all she's been. Her fears and hang-ups and self-exile is undoubtedly what brought that grim. God, everyone is wearing the idiot hat in this episode.
I must have been sick recording the Menagerie review, because that was some nasally. Ugh. Former leader of White Fang has no idea what White Fang does. Wait, why did he step down?
Doesn't know that the White Fang are bad. Okay, I get it. And it's nice to see the CCT being down actually having an impact on the story. You big, burly brute, you saw what happened to Vale on the CCT before it crashed. Granted, Cinder had control over the system and only showed the world what she wanted them to see. But what about the breach?
What about the breach? Again, I got way better at presenting as time went on. What about the breach? Like, seriously, no one ever talks about it anymore. Like, it's a major plot point in Volume 2. It's the Volume 2 finale. It gets Ironwood in charge of the Vital Festival's security, and that is it. It is never talked about. After Volume 3, it is never referenced ever again.
What about those board members being executed Weiss mentioned in Volume 1? Wow, Blake, you aren't any better. Didn't you come here to hide from the White Fang? Isn't that why you got mad at Sun? So are you telling me Sun was right and you got mad at him for no reason? Or are you just that...
Blake's whole arc in Volume 4 is such a goddamn mess. And oh man. Like, it's not relevant to RWBY anymore. They've completely dropped the White Fang plotline now. But just, it is an absolute fucking train wreck. Like, like, I stand by that. Like, the whole running from your problems, thinking that, like, her thinking that she's protecting Yang by leaving her alone is retarded. I use it purposely to be offensive to fictional fucking characters, okay? Blake is a fictional character and she is retarded. It's stupid, and then she, like, no, she wants nothing to do with the White Fang. She's hiding from them. She's checking in on her family but she's not, because she's not actually standing up for her family. But then she reveals herself to the White Fang anyway, and then they find out where she is, and then they have like Ilya spying on her, and then that leads to them like try to like build up a Faunus militia, which then nearly gets them all killed because Adam sends like assassins after Gira and Callie. And all Volume 4 and 5, like, it's just, the Blake stuff is just, the menagerie plot, I should say, is just so bad.
But Blake is an impulsive twat, so she ended up revealing her presence to the White Fang anyway. Therefore, they sent a spy, and because Blake is Blake, she threw us on Scroll, found the spy, chased her.
But yeah, the defining moment was in my RWBY review for of Runaways and Stowaways, which was Blake is a freaking twat. She's moody, irresponsible, and stupid, and her outfit sucks.
And now Sun is hurt. This moment could have been avoided if Blake wasn't so insufferably dumb. And I'm convinced she was written this way with a purpose. Blake is the one that needs to learn the lesson. Her arrogance got Sun hurt, just like her past got Yang hurt. Her motives are dumb and exactly what...
I mean, yeah, I am just stitching together different video clips that I had done before this, but that's why the audio would blash.
Thought they were. Her goal is even dumber and runs counter to her actions. She stupidly reveals herself to the White Fang, so they send Ilya. Blake refuses to listen to Sun, so she
this is redundant.
Hits Ilya, chases after her for no reason, kicks her scroll out of her hand, and on that scroll is all the information needed to convince Blake that she needs to stop running and take the fight to the White Fang. And now that I've said that out loud, I hate the stupid arc even more. Yeah, Blake.
I think I hate it every time I had to reiterate or restate it.
Can you see how they failed on delivering exposition with this character?
It is a big reason why Volume 6 is way better than Volume 4.
She hasn't developed at all. All that has happened.
She has now.
The audience finding out more stuff that should have never been hidden. I wonder if Volume 5 will be better. I hope it's better, but that's probably wishful thinking.
Oh, you have no idea how wishful that thinking was past me. You have no idea. Although, the fucked up thing, I've said this before, the fucked up thing is that Blake went from being the worst part of Volume 4 to the best part of Volume 5 with no change in the story quality. All of Volume 5 is on the level of the Volume 4 menagerie plot. That's just the entire volume.
Thanks for watching.
The Blake hasn't had a whole lot of development since Volume 4. But the main thing was in Volume 6, where she's like, no, I don't need to protect Yang. I don't need to help her. She doesn't need my help. She just wants me around. And I don't need her help. I don't necessarily want her help, but I like having her around. Like that kind of mutual like agreement of I'm not protecting her, she's not protecting me, we're protecting each other. Like that was the big lesson Blake needed to learn throughout the whole Mistral saga. Because it was the crux of her running away and abandoning Yang in the first place, was she thought she was protecting Yang. So let's jump right into Weiss. Which is what I would love to do.
And welcome to An Honest Look in RWBY. Today I'm talking about Weiss Schnee, former heiress of the Schnee Dust Company, partner of Ruby Rose, and the character who has changed the most out of the main cast.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the main cast, she debuted in her own trailer. The trailer, set to Mirror Mirror, seems...
No longer being racist is a very drastic development compared to literally all the other characters of the series. Change the most doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most well-rounded or fleshed out or organic of development, but it is the most development.
To imply a desperate longing and a history of loneliness for her. This is her life, or at least...
Oh, man. I love these images. Hold on. I don't know who made this. And it's low res. But it's Weiss that made for a very difficult childhood. And Blake saying maybe we were just tired of being pushed around. Like, I kind of wish monochrome happened. Like, I'm Bumblebee neutral. I think there are just way better Blake ships out there. Blake and Weiss is one of them. Like, I would have been much happier if they were the ones who had, like, the kind of conflict in Volume 6, and that they were the ones who had to team up to fight Adam. Actually, have Blake, Weiss, and if you're gonna have Adam have the same exact power set as he has in canon, then that actually does create a good parallel with Yang. And I actually plan on doing a video on that. One of the post-Volume 9 videos I plan on doing is actually kind of readdressing the whole Adam situation and how I would have handled that. Because there's a lot there that is a missed opportunity involving Weiss, and the fact that she never met Adam.
Or at least her childhood.
And then
she was constantly.
I love that fan art too. I think that's Mojo. That looks like Mojo's fan art. It might be someone else.
She was.
And this is why, like, more recently, anytime I use fan art, I try to cite the artist, so that I can remember to give them credit when I revisit the videos years later. But if you know who did either of those pictures, let me know, please.
Was torn between a rebellious nature, wanting to become a huntress, and a genuine desire to ascend to the head of the SDC and change it back to the honorable company.
I need to keep talking and pausing because I don't want that to true. I don't think it will, because I don't think this video was ever copyright claimed. But
this is why she has such an internal conflict. That conflict is reflected in the battle against the armored Giga, a Geist that possessed a suit of armor made by
the Shiro Miwa manga.
Her father as a final test she had to pass before going to Beacon. Speaking of which, we never get a clear answer
I'm still not quite sure.
Beacon over Atlas. If I had to guess, she saw how her father took Winter's inheritance from her and didn't want to make the same mistake, so Beacon was something of a middle ground. Then
there's still a lot of, like, shaky stuff about Weiss leading up to her stay at Beacon, and Ice Queendom didn't really do a whole lot to alleviate that that ambiguity.
We have her first appearance in the series proper, and
I would have mixed the music a little lower if I was doing this
but I am
on literally any other thing aside Movie Maker.
Advertising. What we were promised was a deep and introspective character torn between her internal logic and her heart's desire. What we got was a stuck-up brat who projects all her problems on those beneath her, which in her mind is everyone except maybe Pyrrha. Weiss' arc in the first 3 volumes is threefold. First, she had to get over herself enough to work with the RWBY. She reluctantly partnered with RWBY per the rules of the initiation test, and she reluctantly saved and helped RWBY in the massive Grim fights, despite being put off by RWBY's immaturity and impulse.
Poor editing, poor audio mixing. I actually like the way I am reading the script. Like, I am way more confident by now. And when did this come out? July 2017. So yeah, I think I wasn't doing practicum yet. I started doing practicum stuff in like September of 2017. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm very clearly getting better at speaking into the mic.
Even so, she didn't like the fact that Ospen...
Or it might just be because I'm talking about Weiss, and I love Weiss.
...selected RWBY to be the leader. This changed after a stern talking to with Port, where he made her realize that her attitude was cancerous, though not as cancerous as the average Tumblr post. So after...
I never actually used Tumblr. That was just me using Tumblr as narrative shorthand for toxic internet-based website.
After realizing what it means to be a good teammate,
as opposed to a not internet-based website.
Her next order of business was becoming a good friend. We get a glimpse
Good
of that
friend,
when
yeah.
she makes RWBY coffee, but
I feel like a lot of people don't understand that part of Weiss's development. I feel like a lot of people accuse Volume 1 Weiss of resetting her character development after Badge and the Burden. But no, it's like, she's still trying to be a good teammate, a good person for RWBY, but, like, still a racist.
like the rest of her team, she pretty much disappears after that episode so that the show could go into 4 consecutive weeks of generic bully arc starring Jean. Her next arc revolves around...
Yeah. Although, that moment where Weiss, like, whips out Mirton Aster, ready to, like, actually help Jean is actually a really cool Weiss moment that gets slept on. I didn't mention it in this video. I don't think I've mentioned it in any of the Honest Looks. At least I don't remember ever really talking about, but I really like the whole... It adds to her, like, her sense of duty. Like, she doesn't give a fuck about Jean, but she does give a fuck about being a huntress. So when she sees someone being attacked by a Grimm, it doesn't matter if it's literally her least favorite person in the world, she's still going to step in and save it because that's what her grandfather would do. Like, I like that it's just 2 seconds of characterization for Weiss that I love. Slept on moment, underrated moment, can't say underrated character because Weiss is a lot of people's favorite. A lot of people love Weiss. I am not alone in that.
her relationship with Blake and her attitude towards the Faunas.
In fact, I think because I did levy some criticisms on her writing, that this got a lot of dislikes. Yeah. I don't know.
I've talked about this part of the story a couple times, but suffice to say, Weiss does go through a bit of an arc. It's just done really fast. Her realization that Blake is a teammate and probably had it
1 volume, 3 arcs for her.
Screen. He goes from
the innocent never run, Yang.
The double take. Because I needed something to fill in time.
I don't care.
all without a single scene.
Misplaced. Oh, that okay. couple things I would not do there.
Entirely off screen. He goes from
Yeah, the double take.
Never run, Yang.
That font I would never do. I would actually just record 2. She goes from this. Actually, the way I would do it now is like, she goes from this, plays the clip, to this, plays the next clip.
I don't care.
all without a single scene.
Also, like the misplaced frames there.
With her in between. They portray her as probably racist, but then again, she's not treating Sun with any more cruelty than she treated RWBY or Jean. But this entire...
True. Like, she's racist, though. Let's be real. Volume 1 Weiss is racist. Like, let's not argue against that.
entire dynamic that the White Fang executed.
She's just not super racist. No, there's 50 shades of racism there.
Gets forgotten. Especially by Blake, who completely forgets why she left the White Fang until she sees them with Torchwick. Even so, by the end of Volume 1, Weiss was poised to finally be that introspective character we were promised. What we got was a nothing burger. Weiss goes from cruel and interesting to just a flat character and interesting. That was a nothing burger.
I had to force myself not to make a Russia hacker reference. Why? Why would I? I know political jokes. I like political jokes, but like
we were promised. What we got was a nothing burger.
Oh, the whole nothing burger thing. Okay. I'm starting to remember how my brain worked in 2017. No, 5 years ago. 6 years ago. But yeah, the whole Russia thing ended up being a nothing burger, and that was the whole like verdict with the Mueller report, which came out like 6 months after this video did, by the way. So that was still up in the air, but come on, we all knew that wasn't ever going to go anywhere.
Weiss goes from cruel and interesting
So the Sargon of Akkad reference. So I think I know I had a comment about it because they didn't understand. Because I like Sargon of Akkad. I don't know why I compared him to... So, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, this was around the time that he, like, got banned from... You know, he's been banned from YouTube and Twitter, like, dozens of times over the years. But, like, at one point, his profile pic was, like, a trash can. No, on Twitter... He went by, like, Sargon of Akkad, parentheses, garbage human. Because he was leaning into that joke. So I'm laughing with Sargon of Akkad here, not against him. I don't have to defend Sargon of Akkad. He said a lot of things I disagree with. I'm just saying, that wasn't meant to be insulting. Because I was actually a fan of his content back then. So yeah, that was actually, like, again, he had the garbage human title on his Twitter.
To just a flat character in Volume 2.
And I like that because it was like, people who were into Sargon of Akkad back then were like, oh, hey, I get that because he's the garbage human, that's his Twitter thing right now. And people who don't like Sargon of Akkad will assume that I don't like Sargon of Akkad, and will therefore like the video. See, I was in 4D chess. It's like the honest look thing. People who like coffee will click on the video because it's called an honest look at coffee, and people who don't like coffee will give it a thumbs up because they don't like Team Coffee, and neither do I. That's how you play the game, son.
She started being infatuated with Neptune. There's a really good little scene with her practicing smiling in an elevator.
Love that scene too.
Mentions of her family's life, which it's at least implied that she's talked about her family, albeit off screen, which is still more than I can say about some people.
There is a lot of off-screen exposition involving people's backstories in RWBY. As far as we know, Blake never talked about her parents to Team RWBY. And her parents have never really met Team RWBY to this day, on screen. Surely they did off-screen after Volume 5, whatever. But then he got, like, in Volume 5... when Raven is name dropped in the first episode, and Jean's like, Yang's mom? Like, Jean, how the fuck do you know that? Did Yang tell you, or did RWBY tell you during the 6 to 8 month time skip? Whatever. Everyone's on the same page at all times, I guess.
And as I said in my shipping video, I really loved the scene with her at the dance. She's lonely to nothing but her own mistakes and high standards.
Yes.
And also Neptune's cowardice, but that's a video for a different day.
And that video would never exist. I never ended up doing a honest look at Sun and Neptune. Maybe one of these days... But it's been 6 years, so don't keep holding your breath on that one.
Maybe I am a little harsh on how she's written in Volume 2. We get more insight on her family and her goals. Granted, her motivation didn't make a lot of sense until we got that reveal that Jacques married into the family. And this comes to a head when Winter comes in Volume 3. I really like their relationship and how much Weiss genuinely looks up to Winter. I get the feeling that a lot of her animosity towards her father was caused more by his treatment of Winter rather than his treatment of Weiss herself.
Headcanon theory
this would have been the
checks
best
out.
Moment to lay the little bombshell about Jacques' relation to the Schnees. In this moment when...
I do think that reveal... because they did reveal it in the show in Volume 4. Like... And I want to say they did it right after that World of Remnant. But yeah, I would have liked it to be, stated earlier.
Weiss finally decides on what she wants to be. This is when she finally gets going down her third and final arc. Being a good person.
just the overall editing quality is not that great in this video.
During the Battle of Beacon, she focuses on Elysian Knights and
I have to
Paladins.
keep pausing just to sigh.
From her father's thumb in very much the same way Blake focused on the White Fang as an affirmation of her desire to be a huntress. And this growth is
that was absolutely intentional in Volume 3.
From an Elysian Paladin, using her summoning to cut it in half with an image of the
one of my absolute favorite moments in the entire show.
But being a huntress isn't her only goal. As I've already said, Weiss truly desires to take over the Schnee Dust Company. She sees her grandfather as a
company that no longer
and
exists.
Her mother as the one solely responsible for
and she still does. I am the granddaughter of a hero and the daughter of a villain.
Dragging the honor of the Schnee legacy through the mud. So she plays nice. She goes home with her father, she does what he desires, she puts on that concert, but there is a line Weiss was unwilling to cross. Much like her leader, she has become incapable of standing by while justice is in earshot. In this case, a couple rich snobs bad-mouthing Vale. The socialite
this bitch right here is just a fucking piece of shit.
Question was even laughing at the death of innocents. And saying Vale deserved it for not having good enough security.
Yeah, America totally deserved 9/11, guys.
In charge of Atlas security.
That literally her.
Who was in charge of security during the Vital Festival. This was really pissed and made a scene. Jacques came down hard on her.
It's not Ironwood's fault, though.
And taking her inheritance away so that her younger brother Whitley, the kiss-up of the family, can be the heiress. With her inheritance gone,
I did that on purpose, by the way. Calling Whitley the heiress was done on purpose.
She had no reason to be at home and jumped on the next airship to wherever winter is, which happens to be Mistral. Though
happened. She was long gone by the time Weiss got there.
Can't help but think that
fucking
the actual escape left a lot to be desired. Ironwood, for instance, looked like he was going to back her and help her out. She destroyed the window with her summon, but then
I would have liked that. That would have been a really cool moment for Ironwood.
Kind of a mess. I believe Weiss' growth is complete. Now her story will revolve around showing the world just how far she's come and just how noble the Schnee name can still be. I'm really looking for...
Volume 7 kind of did the... You can't really see it, but it looks like it'll be exploring Weiss's idolization and reliance on Winter. Volume 7 did that a little bit. And I do think Weiss did get adequate opportunity to kind of show off how far she's come in those 2 volumes. I don't think she's in it enough, and I think it's because the Aesops ate up a lot of screen time, because it's that classic quintuplets scenario, like, to choose one thing is to not choose the other. They really wanted RWBY to be trained by and eventually surpass, and by the end of the volume defeat the Aesops. In order for that to mean something, they had to give the Aesop screen time, and by giving the Aesop screen time, they weren't able to give Weiss screen time.
Forward to the future of this character, so until next time, thanks for watching.
She's still the best girl. She's still best girl. Yeah. But yeah, this video, this is the best honest look we've done so far. That my presentation is on point. Well, as on point as it got in this era. Like, I'm actually enunciating. I'm projecting my voice correctly. The editing is decent enough. There's not as many, like, really bad audio transitions. And the content, I think, holds up better than the RWBY or Blake videos content did. Like, just the overall analysis of the character, I think, is still, like, true. Like, I don't think I would change anything about this video aside from, like, higher resolution footage and better audio editing. So, now, my second most contentious RWBY honest look video, an honest look at RWBY's fight scenes. And this is also the longest
Thus
of,
far,
of
an
this
honest
bunch.
look in RWBY has been focused on character breakdowns, but I have retconned a few other videos to be part of the series. That's mostly
So this was the first one I did after I created this playlist.
because the honest look moniker didn't really become a thing until I did my RWBY honest look, and the series is more than that. I came up with the honest look moniker.
So, there's a TED Talk I remember watching that was about, like, the true leader. So, like, or the true pioneers, and how it's always the second person. Like, if you have one person, say you go to a crowded park or something, or a place with a lot of people, and one person starts dancing, that guy's an idiot. Then, when a second person starts dancing, then it becomes a movement, and then everybody will start dancing, or a lot of people will start dancing. It's always the second person that actually cements it.
To lure unsuspecting viewers into clicking on my coffee rant, and it grew into what it is today from there. In
Exactly
this video,
like I
I'll
said
be talking about
last
fight
time.
scenes. Not all of them, and not the mechanics of the fight scenes, but more of the philosophy behind the fight scenes, and why I feel the way I feel
this'll be
about
good.
them. RWBY is the brainchild of one Monty Oum, who fashioned himself a rock star animator who first rose to prominence through the animated
I don't know if he fashioned himself that, but he was definitely being called that within the internet community.
short Haloid and the Dead Fantasy series. Monty had a very limited understanding of what goes into a fight scene. If you want
I don't agree with that. I don't think it was limited. I think he just liked what he liked.
something deeper, I highly recommend Super Eye Patch Wolf's video titled What Makes a Fight Scene Interesting. Anyone with any kind of interest in action scenes needs to watch that video. But to summarize the point...
Yeah, the Super Eye Patch Wolf video is excellent. That's another thing that I really feel like I do that a lot of other people don't do, is I will, like, highlight and call out positive call-outs. And negative call-outs too, but those not so much. Channels that I'm not associated with at all. So, like, you know, when try to think of two. Okay, like Fat Man Falling and Celtic Phoenix Productions. Those two channels are inextricably linked. So when Fat Man Falling hypes up a Raymond video, or when Raymond hypes up a Fat Man video, it's not as impactful because it's just it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But when even if it's a smaller creator giving props to a larger creator, I think it has a lot more impact. Because, like, yeah, Super Eye Patch Wolf, I've done the same thing with, like, Razor Fist, Overly Sarcastic Productions, Jeremy John's, like, these are channels that I personally, like, watch on a consistent basis. These are people that I look up to, even if I don't model my content after them at all, but I do still look up to them as content creators, and they don't even know who I am. Razor Fist might by now, because I've commented on enough of his stuff. He might recognize my username. And we're all part of the Iron Age stuff together. But, like, I know Jeremy Johns doesn't know who the fuck I am. I know, like, the Takahata from Team 4-Star doesn't know what a Mediocrity 4 is. But, like, I still love those channels, and it goes back to kind of my philosophy of being a YouTuber, which is to say stuff that isn't being said. So, if other people are saying it, especially if the people saying it are bigger than me, I just straight up will not do a video on it. Unless I think it's really important. Or if I literally get paid. Like, I literally got paid to talk about JoJo, so obviously I talked about JoJo.
Points, the characters have to have a reason to fight. There have to be clearly defined stakes, even if they're small. Those stakes need to be predicated on who wins and loses. There has to be physical narrative, which is the actual planning and executing of blows and such. And there needs to be an emotional narrative, the story and character beats that happen as a direct result of the fight. After that, lighting, cinematography, music, sound design, effects, and choreography add flavor to the fight scenes. So, Monty's fights, they're all flavor. If the Luke vs. Vader fight from Return of the Jedi is...
I do agree with that. He had a very flash in the pan animation style, and it went beyond his fight scenes too. He didn't like put a whole lot of thought or anything into like the emotions of characters. Certainly not to the extent that a lot of the lead animators on RWBY do now. But I don't think that's necessarily awful. I did back then. I did back in 2017 when I made this. That is not something I necessarily stand behind now. And I don't stand behind it because RWBY Volume 5 happened. Because when you think about it, the story of the Battle of Haven, if you just write it out or whatever, it's not awful. But the presentation of it is so awful with all the random cuts, the awful choreography. Like, it becomes unwatchable. And that's not something I really thought about when I made this video. Like, I underplayed how important presentation actually is. And it reflects in my videos too, where I'm like, yeah, this is a really good script. I am very proud of the script. And then literally everything surrounding that script is garbage. Go back to an honest look at Coffee and honest look at RWBY, where like my voice is all mumbly. I'm not projecting my voice. Even when I do, it's nasally, which that's just health problems. Like I'm just a nasally person. The audio editing is a mess. The visual edits are full of like pop into frames and weird font choices. Like just and it's one of the reasons why I don't have a lot more subscribers and a lot more views, is because for so long in my channel's history, for the first like 2 to 3 years of my channel's history, I didn't care about presentation, and it shows. It shows in the quality of my videos. It's why I put a lot more thought and time into my videos now than I did back then. Even if it's just a slideshow video, I make sure that the slides at least match up and are like high res photos. Like, I don't use low res photos anymore. I did a lot back then.
Is a full course meal from a 5-star restaurant, then Pura vs. Cardinal, Velvet vs. the Mech, or the every single second of Dead Fantasy.
Still don't like Dead Fantasy,
taking
though.
a swig of soy sauce and calling it a day.
Yeah.
But this isn't always true. This isn't like math, where finding a single scenario where the rule doesn't work doesn't mean you have to throw out the entire rule. There's plenty of fights in RWBY that have...
That was literally taking from my teaching math class, which I still actually have the textbook down there for. But yeah, like in math, if you have a rule and then you find a situation where that rule doesn't actually apply, then it's just no longer a rule.
Moments that are more than just flavor, and a few of them even achieve the same heights that the best in the industry can offer, though those examples are few and far between.
Yeah, and it's even fewer and farther between now since Monty's death. There are still some recent fight scenes that I think are some of the best the series has ever had. The Ironwood versus Watch from Volume 7 is up there. Cinder versus Penny in Volume 8. RWBY versus the Cat in Volume 9. Like, at least once per volume, we've gotten a really good, solid fight scene. With the exception of Volume 5. The closest thing to a good fight scene we got in Volume 5 was like the 10 seconds of gunchuck action.
The Red trailer, for instance, does a good job building on the questions its initial audience already has. And since it's a trailer, it doesn't need a lot of substance, just the inklings of substance. RWBY's cheeky little smile as she cuts a Beowulf in half is all the proverbial protein that action scene needed. The White trailer is also a brilliant example of this, and quite possibly the best thing Monty ever had a hand in.
I agree with that.
It reflects Weiss' internal...
I do think that the White trailer is the single best video Monty Oum ever made. Like, visual storytelling, creativity, the music and how it all syncs up. Like, it is just a work of art. Red trailer would probably be the second best video he ever made. But the White trailer is my favorite of the 4 trailers by a pretty wide margin.
Struggle and character arc into both the action beats of the fight and the musical beats of the song, all building to the acceptance, or rather admittance, that she's not perfect, needs to be stronger, is broken, and needs to find a way to fix herself, which she does throughout the course of the show. The reason why the black and yellow trailer don't work nearly as well is because it never lets any of that sink in.
Yes, I probably make this point here, so I'm gonna just keep letting it play out.
We never see a moment of Blake struggling. There's a disconnect between her motives, her actions, and the lyrics of the song.
Yep.
And Yang's theme doesn't even start until over 4 minutes into a nearly 6-minute video. And
I've never understood the yellow trailer's music choice. It's never clicked for me.
Get to the rest of that trailer's problems in the next honest look. I think if I had to boil RWBY down to its key components, good and bad, and pick a single scene where all that is on display, it would be the Players in Pieces fight scene.
Yes,
it was
the
created
most
just to
Monty
remind
thing.
everyone that this is supposed to be an action show. The actual plot threads that connect the action beats are laughably bad. Kill it, kill it, kill it. There's some good character beats that add a lot, but there's some that don't.
That's a fat man joke. Blame him. I actually don't agree with that anymore. I think RWBY went and told Blake the plan first, because Blake was the one who would need to do the most, like, prep time and stuff. And then, when it cuts away from Weiss, then, like, there's an off-screen explanation of the plan for everyone. Like, everyone gets filled in off-screen so that the scene can just actually play out visually without grinding everything into a whole to explain the plan and then showing exactly what RWBY is talking about. Just show what RWBY is talking about and leave it up to the audience to, draw the very obvious conclusion that RWBY must have told them off-screen.
The big action beats are well conceived and admirably executed, but everything in between is just pointless. And that's a big problem in many of these fight scenes.
Yes.
Just as an example, I took a universally beloved action scene that Monty spent a lot of time on. I edited it to only keep beats that highlight characterization, development, strategy, and or plot progression.
Oh, this will be good. Sizing up, yeah. Okay. First strike. Anger, confidence. Obviously I chopped it up a little bit more than it otherwise should be because copyright. Yang's futility. He has counteroffensive. Cockiness. Yang trying to keep control.
Much shorter, right?
Yeah, longer than I thought it would be. And, hey, media, you know why all that in-between stuff exists? To make it flow better. Yeah, that's why I'm like, oh, this will be good.
Right? In many action scenes, less is more.
Yes,
to bring
I do
up the
agree
Star
with that.
Wars example, the Luke vs. Vader fight in Return of the Jedi is universally praised, but the Anakin and Obi-Wan fight in Revenge of the Sith, though still beloved, gets a lot of flack for being too long. The truth...
Again, August 22nd, 2017. Pre-Last Jedi. Fucking everything up for the fandom.
is that they're both about the same length. The difference is that the Jedi fight has a lot more going on under the hood, which you can find here. Every single beat in the episode 6 fight is vital.
Series.
Speaking of vital, the tournament arc in RWBY blows.
Okay, that was a good transition. That was a good segue. I'm usually awful at segue, so anytime I run into a really good segue, I'm going to pause it and point it out because not something I'm usually good at. But yeah, every beat in the Return of the Jedi fight is vital and goes as long as it needs to. And then speaking of vital...
6 fight is vital. Speaking of vital, the tournament arc in RWBY blows. I plan on doing a separate video detailing the story and character reasons why this whole 5-episode stretch kind of sucks, but a lot of it is tied to the action. Or rather, it's not tied to the action, and that's what sucks. Boil down this fight to its important elements, and you'd be left with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I got a copyright strike on this, but I'm definitely tempting fate with the way this is cut together. I do like Flint. I like Flint. He does come back in Volume 7. Yeah. Yeah, you could totally do this whole fight in like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and not really miss anything important. And still make it like flow well and stuff. Obviously that's not how it was animated though.
And this problem is only highlighted when the show tries explaining something. This show is impressively bad at delivering exposition. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad. The show has to grind to an absolute halt anytime it delivers.
Like the end of Volume 9. The last 2 minutes damn near ruined what was otherwise the best volume in the entire series.
Exposition, and since the writers make things up as they go, that exposition is neither well conceived nor well implemented. My Hero Academia has gotten a lot of righteous praise for its action scenes. The characters feel human, where any damage can result in permanent damage, but more importantly...
Oh, hold on. That's a Linkin Park song I have playing in the back there. It's No More Sorrow.
The characters talk while fighting instead of separating the two into different moments. A lot of shonen battle series, even the good ones, have talking, fighting, then more talking, then more fighting, rinse, lather, repeat until finished. My Hero Academia blends all these disparate elements together into every punch, creating some of the most memorable action scenes in recent memory. And this is something Kohei Horikoshi picked up from his most obvious predecessor, Masashi Kishimoto, the creator of Naruto.
MHA has way better pacing though, and that's the difference between Period and Bones. Ugh, that text font though. I would have chosen a different font, and I also would have made sure it had the black border around the text so that it doesn't blend in with the background, or with the image here. I fell away from My Hero Academia a few years ago. Like, it was coming down from the really big fight where a lot of people died, and Shigaraki, like, nearly killed or maybe killed Gran Torino. I can't remember if Gran Torino died or not in that scene. But that I just kind of got bored with it.
Naruto at its best had action scenes built around mental beats of strategy with jutsu and techniques that had super specific uses. Kishimoto would blend these action beats and thematic beats, character beats, and at its absolute best both at the same time. RWBY doesn't really have any of that.
Naruto does have some of the best fight scenes in all anime.
Not to show my whole hand at once, but my original intent with this video was to disprove the notion that Monty was the only good animator at Rooster Teeth. A lot of people point to Volume 3, but that's not good enough. Monty still worked on many of the Volume 3 scenes, and those are some of the best scenes. No,
that was actually Shane Newville that did that shot.
I have to defend Volume 4's action scenes, just not this one, thank God, because this one is just absolute trash.
It is.
The Petra Giga fight isn't perfect. It lacks a good end, and there's some questionable beats, but it does show the team dynamic for Ranger.
Yeah,
gives Nora an upgrade, and has story beats with John that build into the next scene where he gets his new armor. The Sea Dragon fight, and this is the definition of a backhanded compliment, is a fight scene that, if cut out, works completely fine on its own with its own beginning, middle, and end, while also not doing anything to add or take away from the story at hand.
it is kind
the
of
whole
a
fight
filler
with Tyrion
fight,
is the
or
first
padding
legitimate
fight.
time one of the main characters has been in real danger.
Yes.
The only time that even comes close is the stuff with Adam in Volume 3, but that's never given time for tension to build, which is actually its strength because it's not the loss that sends Yang into depression, it's the rapidity, the utter humiliating way in which he lost.
Yeah, like, I don't know if this had come out yet. The Shane Newville letter. I think it must have. Because this is getting close to the release of Volume 5, so it must have come out by this point. But originally, Shane Newville was working on Yang versus Adam, and it was going to be like a full-blown fight. And then, as production went on, they decided to not at the time finish that choreography, and they just had Adam one-shot Yang. I think that was a great story beat. Like, I think that was just for the better, because, again, like, Yang losing a fight, Yang's probably lost fights before. But Yang being taken out so efficiently like that, that's, like, the cause of her trauma. Like, it's the suddenness of it. It's the shock that makes that scene work so well. Like, I just said it's the shock. And then, because they kept that, because that's just how intellectual property rights work, they actually co-opted what Shane Newville worked on, used that as reference for the Volume 6 scene. With Yang versus Adam, where Yang is a lot stronger, she's on a lot more equal footing with Adam, still nowhere near in Adam's league. That's why it took her and Blake working together to defeat him, but they were able to reuse that choreography, and it made a lot bigger impact than it would have had it been used in Volume 3. And certainly a lot more than had it been used in both volumes. That would have just been dumb.
That sends her down her path, and instead taking the tension away with the Deus Ex, it keeps building for several more episodes as Crow's fate has a big red question mark over it. And it's only resolved when tension to build, which is actually its strength because it's not the loss that sends Yang into depression, it's the rapidity, the utter humiliating way in which he lost that sends her down her path. And instead taking the tension away with the Deus Ex, it keeps building for several...
Did I skip a beat? Did I accidentally cut out part of this video before uploading it? Because I went straight from talking about, like, Adam and Yang to talking about Crow being poisoned. Like, I didn't even address the fight itself.
Several more episodes as Crow's fate has a big red question mark over it. And it's only resolved when Team Ranger stands on its own against the Nuklavi and wins, and in doing so gain the attention of Mr. Patrols, that they all get to safety. Even something like Yang's training scene with Tai peppers in character growth and development, even if it does fall into that same talk fight routine that infects most shonen action series. Monty never wrote action scenes out. He'd make them up as they go.
Yes.
This works for something devoid of meaning like Dead Fantasy, and it works for making an animated GIF. It also helps keep continuity with the scene because...
It's a Naruto soundtrack there.
You're always thinking about what comes next rather than how do you get from point A to point B. But the only downside to writing out these action scenes is that it's miles.
I am really bad at a lot of memory-related things. Actual Miles quote.
Writing them out, and he'd forget his own ass if his head wasn't playing cricket with his colon. In summation, RWBY's action scenes would be scoring more C's than the Mexican hooker. There's
I don't apologize. I will not apologize for any joke I've ever made. But I will say... What? Like, see means yes, okay, sure. Where's the funny?
There's a lot of potential there between Dust, crazy weapons and semblances all being used as tools for characters to use. The writers have even admitted
all being used for the characters to use. Great writing.
to having problems with pacing, and this is part of it. They are improving, they are moving forward, they are getting better. Think about that before you claim
And then Volume 5 happened.
to know better than the writers because you let Montastalgia blind you into thinking dead fantasy.
I've always been against the whole idea of Montastalgia. Like, that has not changed. Like, I don't like how people hype up the first 3 volumes at the expense of volumes 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Worth a damn. I'm criticizing Monty Oum on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified!
That's a reference. I can't remember. What was the crucified thing from? Oh, Ego Raptor. It was Aaron Hansen, his Ocarina of Time video. Sequelitis, like, oh my god, I'm criticizing Ocarina of Time on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified! Yeah. Then Rising Fighting Spirit at the end. Yeah. Apparently I did get some kind of copyright claim at some point. Yeah. I'm not gonna read the comments, but yeah, 771 video likes compared to
Never underestimate the importance of
ooh. I was gonna jump right into the A, so alright, so I did not know how to edit using Adobe Premiere. I think I did like one AMV just to get the ropes and learn like the basics, but I think this is webcam mic. And the aspect ratio is fucked in this whole video. Because Adobe Premiere had this thing where you couldn't render videos within Adobe Premiere itself. You had to use Adobe Media Encoder. I had no idea what the fuck that meant. And so I just kind of winged it, and it looked good on my computer. But then as soon as I uploaded it, or as I was uploading, after I uploaded it and already had like a few hundred views, I went and looked at it on YouTube, and this is what I saw. The black bars at the top, the super compressed visuals, and the really fucked audio. This is a rough video to get through, and it's a shame that this is going to be the last one that we do today.
first impression. It's the one reaction you can never get back. There's a reason why memes like this are
Describe your first impression of me. Okay.
so widespread. I'm bringing this up here because there's a lot of dissonance in the audience's first impression of RWBY's Yang Xiaolong.
It sounds like I am trapped in a can. Like I'm trapped in a very thin barrel.
I'll agree that Volume 1 was supposed to get us introduced to the characters, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm willing to bet that at the end of Volume 1, I could have asked you
God, this is giving me a headache.
what kind of person you think RWBY or Weiss or Blake or Jean are, yet if I were to ask the same of Yang, I'd probably get a lot of different answers. Monty created the characters to seem cliche and one-dimensional at first, and then fleshed them out later.
Which is typical of a writer. Like, that's a typical thing to do. You develop your characters over time. Show different sides of them in different situations as you put them in those situations. You create different situations. You don't just keep putting them in the same situation over and over again. You have to mix it up, because only by mixing it up can we see how they react to different scenarios and get that development that we need in order to, like, flesh them out.
This is a great holding pattern when you have a planned out series, and it worked wonders for Ren and Nora, but if you don't have a plan, it can be disastrous.
The writer's intent was to portray Yang as the typical hot blonde party girl and slowly show her more mature side later. The problem is that Monty, Miles, and Carrie are really terrible at stuff like this and screw. Yeah. Hard to remember that that was the original intent with Yang, especially considering now she's just kind of like moody, lesbian. Like, I love it when she goes full mom mode with Ruby. I love it when she's like big sister to Blake and Weiss, but a lot of what made her fun was lost in Volume 3 when she lost to Adam, and she never really did get that back. She hasn't really been fun or funny since Volume 3? Like, I could maybe think of a line or two since then that's been like, oh, that was a fun line, but like, that's just not who Yang is anymore, and like, fine if that's the change, but like, you can have both. You know, again, different situations. You're not going to act the same way in every situation. Let Yang be fun. What was your first impression of Yang? If you go by the yellow trailer, you get about
That's why I don't like Yang in the more recent volumes.
If you started with Volume 1 premiere,
I think it was in Volume 7 where I was like, I'm liking Blake more than Yang, and that concerns me. I can't remember if that was Volume 7 or 8 that I said that, but I do remember saying it.
Then your first impression of Yang was that of this dawdling older sister and maternal figure. And my first impression actually came when I first ever watched the show with a dorm mate. The episode was The First Step, and my first impression was actually closer to how she ended up being characterized later on. Going back to the yellow trailer, that whole party girl characterization ended up being a facade so she could question Junior.
And that's how I wrote Yang. When I was doing RWBY on, I wrote Yang as this like person who's super like upbeat and flirty, but also has like anger issues and uses a lot of her flirtiness as a coping mechanism for her own like anxiety and depression.
Yang's character in this
There's also a very similar character in Night Watch that I write in very much the same way.
Trailer is a hard-nosed and driven woman willing to do anything to get what she wants, whether it's flirting or knocking teeth in. Either way, someone is going to be short of breath. Doesn't even make any... Is that a joke? Hey, I'm just trying to be entertaining.
Pass me. What the fuck? First of all, that really generic record scratch. Like, I make a nod joke, and then it's always funnier. Like, if you have a bad joke, just point out how not funny it is. Although, and this is very clearly like I discovered how to have different audio come out of different sides of the headphones, and that's the whole reason behind this bit. I wanted an excuse to talk to myself and have one voice come out the left ear and one voice come out the right ear. I purposely made something stupid for a stupid joke about a stupid joke. And then I fucked up the audio editing. And I still managed to mess it up, the clip. The
teeth in. Either way, someone is going to be short of breath. Doesn't even make any... Is that a joke? Hey.
Doesn't make any is that a joke. Like, I accidentally cut out the part where I like, that doesn't even make any sense. Is that a joke?
I'm just trying to be entertaining. Well, stop it.
Yeah, stop being entertaining, me. Start being good.
The kind of girl the writers would like us to believe she's being portrayed as. The absolute closest is her making catcalls at the guys.
Yeah,
I mean, she doesn't...
That happened! Guys who think Yang is just absolute lesbian. Like, no. Yang and Blake are bi as fuck.
Party at the actual party. She just stands there hanging out with RWBY. Most egregious of these early Yang scenes comes in the final 2 episodes of
God, that video
Weiss and Blake
compression.
get into a heated argument leading to a literal cat's out of the bag moment. Meanwhile,
literal cat's out of the bag.
Yang, what are you doing? Just going to sit there, right? Not going to add your input. This would be so much better if the video clip I was using wasn't already like 240p. Not going to keep Blake from running. This is a gag that I would keep. Like if I were remaking this video, I would keep this gag. It would just be not shit. To sit there. Speaking of which, the only thing close to an actual character moment Yang gets in the latter half of Volume 1 is this little moment with Weiss.
The innocent never run, Yang.
Understated moment right here. I'd like to believe she's thinking about the Raven little nod here. There, yeah. Going back to my initial inquiry, what is your first impression of Yang supposed to be? Why did I have Back to the Future footage there? I realized that amidst all the pointless action, character wanking, and generic bully arcs, they forgot to give Yang a character. Which is why one of her first lines in Volume 2 is this. I actually do agree with this. Literally, Yang got the short end of the stick in Volume 1. She had the least amount of development, the least amount of characterization, the least amount of, like, shit that we know about her. And then, right off the bat in Volume 2, like, the first thing they have is a fucking pun. She did not make any puns in Volume 1. And she hasn't made a pun in a while. But that's something that, like, Barbara Dunkelman was... I get into it in this video. Xiaolong is voiced by Barbara Dunkelman. Yes. Barbara is less of an actual actor and more of a Rooster Teeth personality, known for being a community manager, a staple on the Rooster Teeth podcast, and known for having
I had a lunch that I bought simply because the title of it was Bon Appetit.
Oh my god.
Talent for quick-witted puns. Monty once said that Yang was the hardest character for him to characterize because it's so far removed from the kind of person he was. I did not understand how writers could do that, but I do now. Because there are two characters in Night Watch. One of them is actually loosely based on Yang, and the other one is not based on any RWBY character at all, but people have accused her of being like RWBY because of her relationship with the character who's loosely based on Yang. When I had a massive struggle with those characters, and with the younger sister of the two in particular, because it is just so far removed from not just who I am, but also the kind of people I hung out with when I was in high school. It was very hard for me to get into their head and get into her head in particular, and like rationalize the stupid fucking shit she was doing. Because I purposely like she's doing stupid things, she gets consequences for those stupid things, and that's just going to be a constant thing throughout the series. I didn't really understand Monty's pain there until much more recently with my own book series. Weiss and Blake come a lot more naturally to him. So to make it easier for himself, he based her off Barb. Only he kind of failed at capturing Barb's mannerisms. It didn't help that Barb, whatever marriage she may have, isn't, or at least wasn't, a good voice actor. She's still not. Like, she's passable. She's serviceable in a lot of the scenes. She can kind of, like, get an emotion out of me, but overall she is the weakest member of the main cast. Like Lindsay, Kara, Aaron, Miles, I would say, and then obviously all the Funimation talent they have, like Aaron Dismuke and Shannon McCormick, Ozpin, the Vic Mignogna when he was still on board, Lucy Christian, who plays Little in... Is it Lucy Christian? I think it is. But yeah, she gets outclassed a lot. She didn't, like, grow into her role the same way that Kara and Lindsay did. This improved in Volume 2 when Barb got a lot more involved with the production, allegedly in a lot of her lines and just treating the role of... Bad audio editing again. It was improv. She improv'd a lot of her lines. And she is, as far as I know, still very involved in the whole creative process. Like, I think it was like a year or two ago, she got like a promotion to like creative director of all of Rooster Teeth Productions or something like that. So she still has a pretty firm hand in like what goes on. She's not part of the writing staff. She's not a producer, but she is someone who like has to give the thumbs up on everything that happens in RWBY.
Yang the same way she treated her job on the podcast. This led Volume 2 Yang to be much more like Anime Barb than Volume 1 was.
Bad visual edits all around. Like that was 3 shots in a row that were just horrible.
This led Volume 2
like
Yang to be much more like Anime
yeah, I
Barb
can't
than
even pause
Volume
it.
1 was. And
The
not
boom
just her
boom,
puns,
like 2
but
out
her
of place
role
frames.
as the big sister of Team RWBY reflected Barb's own penchant of being the big sister of her fellow Rooster Teeth employees. And so it's
And that's I didn't notice it as much in Volume 9, but I definitely remember saying this in like Volumes 6, 7, and 8, where Aaron, the voice of Blake, diminished in talent. Where she used to be one of the stronger members of the cast, she became one of the weaker ones. And I chalked it up to her moving away from Texas, where Rooster Teeth is, and not being able to like get into that like natural chemistry that she has with Barb, because she has natural chemistry with Barb, like to the point where apparently they did like an OnlyFans shoot together. That's just what I heard, but like they do like really like each other, and they are really good friends, and you see that anytime they're doing like a podcast together or a convention together, like you really see the natural chemistry that all 4 of them have together. And I think a lot of that was lost when they weren't in the same studio together, recording each other's lines back to back.
It's no wonder that in Volume 2 we actually learn about what's going on under that mess of blonde hair. And what is going on is actually fascinating. Like, one of my favorite aspects of the show.
Yes.
Barb is still
I
not
love
a good voice
Yang's
actress, but she is
backstory.
improving and is at least functional.
A piece of me is gone, and it's never coming back.
And since
Functional.
a lot of the emotional
Very
weight she carries
functional.
is actually trying to stand strong
Like a coat
despite how
hanger.
the world treats
Or
her
a
just
lamp.
like a punching bag. Functional is all she needs to be. Compare that with RWBY, who has a much more straightforward attitude,
Yeah.
but whose inner workings are actually complex and require a lot of subtlety and
Yep, and Lindsay knocks it out of the fucking park in Volume 9. Like, I said it before, I said it all throughout the podcast, all throughout the volume, and I said it in my Volume 9 video. Like, Lindsay Jones is just turns in the best performance she's ever done in Volume 9.
in order to properly convey the emotions going through her head. Or Blake,
Yep.
who is a high-strung yarn ball of emotion trying and failing at disguising itself as logic.
Yep.
Volume
Yep.
3 Yang continues this,
More misplaced frames.
but with less exploration. What was up front in Volume 2 is now
Yeah.
in the back in Volume 3. Her desire to find Raven conveyed through character animation.
Yep.
Her relationship with RWBY conveyed in smaller moments. Her desire to be a thrill seeker expressed with the joy she has winning fights in the tournament. Then, this happens.
See,
Also,
you're starting to see a little bit more like modern media come into this, even though this is like the worst quality-wise video. You're starting to see a little bit more of my editing habits that continue to this day.
And Yang is right back to being the world's punching bag. She loses her chance to win the tournament, not that winning the tournament was any kind of priority to anyone except Pura and maybe Penny, and she nearly loses the trust of her best friend, but that gets resolved
Yeah.
for no other reason than Blake being an idiot. Seriously,
Yeah.
Yang didn't even apologize, and Blake still forgave her despite
Well, reap what you sow, I guess, because Yang forgave Blake. Just 3 volumes later, she forgave Blake without getting an actual adequate apology. So maybe this was all Rooster Teeth 4D chess moves to be like, yeah, I mean, you know, you forgave me when I didn't give you a good reason to forgive me, so I'm gonna forgive you.
saying that he would only forgive Yang if he said that she regretted breaking Mercury's leg.
The audio, something must have happened to my recording to get it to cut like that.
This scene is so frustrating. She gets separated from her team, from
Ah, good old
everyone
Dragon
during the
Ball.
Beacon, and then this happens.
Yep. Yeah, the whole, and then this happens and plays the clip. That is something that I absolutely still do to this day.
Yang, as we know her, died at that
Aang.
moment. She gets reduced to a shell of her former self. She goes through a depression and PTSD.
Actually, you know what this
of which I am
was?
unqualified.
I was using Audacity by this point. So you know what happened? I was editing in Audacity, and I didn't give the actual sound waves any of that room to kind of process. So it went from like one sound wave to the next, and because it kind of gets compressed when you put it into any kind of video editing software, because technically the audio has unlimited frames per second because it's all in absolute, it's based on like your hertz or refresh rate or something. Basically, I ran into this problem a lot, and I've seen professional people, like people who actually get paid like a living wage off of YouTube, make the same fucking mistakes that I made for a long time. The first one that actually comes to mind, Movie Bob. You watch a Movie Bob video, you will get that same kind of very close, like too close to cut together audio clips, because he's probably editing using Audacity and then putting it into Adobe Premiere or Sony Vegas or whatever he uses.
To pine on, but people who have PTSD have praised Volume 4 for its portrayal. And
Yes.
as I've argued before, it's not because she lost an arm. It's because she believed she could take hits, and so long as she could take hits, she can come back stronger. But she was taken out in a single.
Yeah, so long as she could take the hit, and then she found a hit she couldn't take. That's why this scene is so much better than what Shane Newville originally had
She
planned.
was taken out in a single hit is what destroyed her. This is why even with 2 arms in her dream, she's still frantically scared. This is why I believe that she's not done rebounding yet.
And she wasn't. She still suffered through this with in Volume 5 and 6.
The loss of her arm is merely symbolic of a greater loss, the loss of her confidence. And
Yep.
yes, I do wish we spent more time here, but the actual pacing and beats are all there and accounted for. It's been 6 to 8 months since Volume 3 ended, which is
Yep.
statistically a good amount of time for someone to at least strive to make improvements. Especially since something that wasn't a thing in Volume 1, but was added to make Yang a character in Volume 2,
Yeah?
is the use of RWBY as a motivating factor.
Yes.
RWBY is what
So long as Ruby sticks around, I stick around.
motivated her to find her mom. RWBY nearly getting killed by her stupidity is what motivated Yang to slow down. Now RWBY is the key motivating factor that's getting Yang back into the fight, because her little sister
I love what we got from Yang in Volume 9 as far as the whole Ruby stuff goes. It's one of those things where, like, I wish we would have gotten more, and I don't think I would have ever been satisfied. Like, just give me that shit all day long. Give me Yang breaking down, trying to reach out to Ruby. Like, I would watch that up and love stuff like that.
sister needs her, and as
I can
bad
watch
as
that
Yang
all
might
day.
feel now, if something bad happens to RWBY that she could have prevented, I don't think Yang would.
See, more fan art of that I like, and I have not seen this image in so long, I have no idea who did it. Again, if you know any of the artists or whatever, timestamp this. Timestamp it either in the video proper or in this video in the comments below. Let me know, like, who are the artists who did this art, because I want to give them proper props. Like, I will literally go back to these videos and not edit them, obviously, because I like them as what's the term, time capsules. But I will, like, create a new comment, a new pinned comment, and be like, this timestamp this artist, this timestamp that artist. Like, I will do that because I was a little fast and loose with it before, back when I had all these pictures on my computer and could just be like, oh yeah, if somebody asks, I'll just tell them who the artist is. I don't remember anymore, and I don't have these pictures anymore because I've gone through like 2 computers since then.
Ever come back from that. But we'll just have to wait and see until Volume 5.
Oh, poor naive media. He has no idea what he's in for.
Teeth, Miles, Carrie, and Gray. Please, do not mess this up. You are so close to something genuinely great here. Do not, I repeat, do not be your normal, dumb writing selves. I'm Mediocrity 4.
And then Volume 5 happened.
Thanks for watching.
I feel like I'm finally unbroken. So yeah, that was an honest look at RWBY, and also an honest look at the fight scenes. Honest look at Team RWBY. I think they hold up. Not quality wise, like it's the little things, like the audio editing, especially in this last video, was a mess. The video super compressed more times than not. But I don't think I would change the script for any of these. Like I would maybe like tinker around with the RWBY script, maybe a little bit with the Blake script, because there's a lot of, and again, like I said yesterday, the coffee script as well. But like the overall points and thesis and theme and the whole reason why I did these videos, that still holds up. That's why I'm not just going to remake these until I have the whole series to work with. And then they're going to be like 20 minutes each. I will do like 20 to 30 minute videos, like honest look at RWBY, honest look at Weiss, honest look at Blake, honest look at Yang, honest look at Jean. Those are probably the only ones I would redo. And then I'd leave everything else as is. Like Pyrrha, she hasn't come back. She's not going anywhere. That video is complete. That's as good as you're ever gonna get from me, in regards to Pyrrha. But yeah, if you like this video, comment below. Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Buy my books, plural. I have 2 of them now. One of them is available now, and the other one's available for pre-order. I'm Mediocrity 4. Thanks for watching.